I'm trying to make sense of what's happening in the UK at the moment and Scotland's place in it. I don't really understand politics and economics and do a lot of reading on the internet, which really just confuses me because both sides have got such strong opinions. Now this video is to record my thoughts and to try and clarify things in my own mind. I'm a Scot, as you've probably already gathered from my accent, born in Edinburgh of Scottish parents in 1947. From the age 9 to age 17 and leaving school, I was educated at George Watson's Ladies' College, and my first job was with the Standard Life Assurance Company, also in Edinburgh. I'm a proud Scot, not in a sort of saltire weaving tartan way, but because I really do think that Scottish people in general are kind, generous, warm-hearted people, welcoming people. Scotland's one of 4 countries in the UK, not regions, countries. And in my opinion, it has its absolute right to make its own decisions. This is something I read recently. An independent Scotland will make mistakes along the way, just like the UK does, but they'll be our mistakes and we will have the powers to correct them and to hold those responsible to account. We can do neither of those with the status quo. Now this says it all for me. No matter what government we have in the UK, by virtue of the size of the population of Scotland when compared to the rest of the UK, we can't influence the decisions made because the most MPs we can have in Westminster is 59. The EU referendum is a case in point. People keep saying that the country has decided to leave, but that's just not true. Not only did 62% of Scotland vote to remain, but not one single area of Scotland voted to leave. With that in mind, how on earth can people say that we want to leave the EU? I live in Spain now. I have done since 2006. I didn't get to vote in the 2014 referendum because I was living here. And if I had been able to, I think I probably would have voted no, because everybody was telling us with such conviction that if we voted yes, then we would definitely come out of the EU. However, things are very different this time. To vote no to independence this time means that we will definitely come out of the EU. Now, I realise that not all Scottish people who voted yes the last time want to be in the EU. But to me, that's a question to be asked again after Scotland is independent. Personally, I really want to stay in the single market, but I'm not absolutely sure about full EU membership. However, without independence, there's absolutely no choice. The status quo is just simply not an option. Theresa May tells us that Scotland needs to know the result of the Brexit negotiations before we make that choice. Now, she's absolutely right, and Nicola Sturgeon agrees with her. However, and this is a big but, it should be Scotland that decides when the time is right, not the UK government. I'll say it again, Scotland's a country, not a region of the UK. It's got its own democratically elected parliament, which is debated and voted by a majority, which should have a second referendum. Now I come to the EU residents in Scotland. They're a very necessary and welcome part of the country. They're strongly in favour of independence and would influence a yes vote in a second referendum. I know of 3 groups, and I expect there are more, which are very well organised in their campaign towards independence. Now there's EU residents, there's Poles, and there's Germans for independence in Scotland. Now the reason Theresa May wants to hang fire on an independence referendum is she wants to wait until the whole of the UK is completely out of the EU, and then it'll be too late. The residents from the EU won't be able to vote. And just the same way that I can't vote because I'm a Scot living in Spain. It amazes me to hear people, particularly Scots, saying that Scotland can't survive as an independent country. Really? Scotland has an abundance of resources. Okay, the oil's not bringing in as much as it used to, and there's still an awful lot of it out there. Anyway, do we really want to continue using fossil fuels when Scotland's leading the way with developing alternative sources of energy and which are friendly to the environment? Also creating wealth, we've got food and drink, especially the whisky, tourism, technology, etc., etc. With all of this, so much more than Malta, for instance, has got, why on earth can't we survive on our own? I always wonder why, when English friends make disparaging comments about Nicola Sturgeon and Scottish independence, why do they care? If they're neither Scottish nor do they live in Scotland, what difference does it make to their lives? One thing nobody can dispute is that Nicola is the only party leader who has not made any U-turns from what she stands for in the last year. And in spite of what the opposition may say, she's very popular in Scotland and a much more charismatic personality than either of the other Scottish party leaders or Theresa May. I've never actually voted SNP before, and I know there's a lot of people who want independence but they don't like the SNP. Well, to them I would say, on June the 8th, please, please, please hold your nose and take the plunge. Just vote just this one time for the SNP and get as many Scottish pro-Indy MPs into Westminster as we can just now. And then after independence, you can vote for whoever you like. SNP, Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green, even Martian, doesn't matter. Makes no difference, they'll all be MSPs, voted in by the Scottish people and answerable to the Scottish people. Think of it this way, just one SNP vote on 8th of June to strengthen Scotland's hand in Westminster, then a yes vote in the next Indy Ref. And it will happen. 2 extremely important votes to allow Scotland to take charge of its own affairs and to mould its own future.